All right, and welcome to the second Life of Langley sports vlog. We are 10 days away from the NFL draft, and the future of the Tennessee Titans is in the balance. Probably not too in the balance because we're probably going to be absolute shit again. But there's been a whole offseason of change, new GMs, new GM structure. The league had to investigate whether our GM structure was valid, which gives us much comfort as fans, I'm sure. But with a new regime change and all that, it's supposed to be new draft philosophy. And all these rumors all off season long have had us thinking one way and had us thinking another. And I'm just kind of doing this video to say that most of the stuff we've heard this offseason about draft philosophy and the direction of the team going into this process is probably a big steaming pile of bullshit. But yeah, so Borgonzi, Brinker, Callahan and company, the first thing they start off with this offseason was saying that if there was a generational talent available in the top of the draft, they would not pass on it. And I don't think they were lying about that. I think they did extra uh, research on Cam Ward, and they've come to the conclusion that that's a quarterback that we can't pass up. But with the philosophy of picking the generational talent with a roster that has as many holes as we do, you can say where it might be a stretch that we're picking a quarterback at this point at that position. Now, I'm not here to argue whether Cam Ward's the right pick or not. I think that if you're going into this next season and this team is going to have any hope, you have to get a quarterback at the top of the draft. But I think that was just case number one this offseason, where what the elites and what the guys are saying for inside the organization not necessarily translating to what they're going to do in this draft. I hope Cam Ward is that generational talent that we're hoping he is, but with a roster with as many holes as we do, especially at edge, if we were going to be doing the draft philosophy that they've been largely preaching this offseason, we probably would have went Abdul Carter and have shored up that line with T'Vondre Sweat, Arden Key, Jeffrey Simmons, and really beefed up one of the trenches when, again, a roster with this many holes, you're going to need a lot of players to fill them. Which brings me to the other thing that Mike Berganzi was preaching this offseason, that was accumulating as many top 100 picks as possible. And I'm going to say that this is not the draft to expect that to be their philosophy. When, for as many holes as we have, we also have the other problem where we don't have that much top end talent. So for as many holes as we have, it's really hard to fill them if you don't have the foundational guys in the first place. And I would argue that probably out of our starting 22, we probably only have 3 to 4 foundational pieces that you're really confident in. I mean, J.C. Latham's going from left tackle to right tackle. We don't know how that's going to work out. You got Zeitler at right guard in the short term. Kitchenberry coming off a terrible injury last year, so we don't know how good he's going to be. So really the only guy on the offensive line that you're looking at that's like going to be there and going to be good is Skoronski. We don't have a wideout. Calvin Ridley, he had an okay season. But as far as any long-term, success down in Nashville, unless something just clicks this year with the incoming Cam Ward, we shall see. Remains to be seen. And then at tight end, obviously, like Chig Okonkwo has not been able to be unlocked because he hasn't had consistent quarterback play, and he's had to block in situations where he just can't be a receiver. So there's so much you don't know about this team that I think it's very hard to say that they're going to trade down to accumulate more picks in the second round. With the 35th pick, it is an interesting spot because there's going to be a lot of dudes because of how deep the wide receiver class is and how deep the edge rush class is. And this was a idea to me. Shout out to Music City Audible, Justin Graver and co. Their concept today that they talked about a lot of this stuff, but it really got me thinking about, like I said, just the philosophy they preached all off season, and how this off season probably isn't going to be the one where we see that in play. Um, I really honestly think that if they think there's an elite level wide receiver or edge rusher that they can't pass up on, I think at 35 they're going to try to go back up to the first round or at least pick one of the first few picks in the second round. It does depend on the quarterback class if they drop or not, but when you got Luther Burden, Matt Golden, or Ibuka, those three guys, any of the three of them could be drafted by any wide receiver needy teams, but one of those guys could be at the tail end of the first round, and I like all of them. Emeka Ibuka from Ohio State being probably my favorite, which kills me to say because go blue. But and then at edge, you got James Pierce out of Tennessee, Mike Green from Marshall, Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. You just got guys that can come in instantly and become a pillar on a team that otherwise doesn't have very many pillars. We were talking about Jeffrey Simmons being trade bait. That's pretty much your one pillar on defense that you can point to outside of like maybe a Kenny Vaccaro who, a really good pro, but not somebody you're hanging your hat on. You need top end talent around him to really drive the thing home. Again, our linebacking core in general is not looking like a strong suit, but if that secondary can hold up, at corner, if Snead isn't having legal issues, it's going to drive him off the field. Because, of course, we got to have problems on top of problems. And then Jarvis Brownlee Jr., if he can make a second-year leap and not a second-year slump, which a lot of dudes, for whatever reason in the history of our drafting, has done. But, yeah, like, rounds 1 and 2, like, I honestly expect them to hold. And like I said, in round 2, I expect them to move up. If you're going to get two guys that you can say, all right, that's the next 5 years, these dudes are going to be here, I think you sacrifice that trying to accumulate as many top 100 picks philosophy. You have to have pillars in which to build upon, and then you can try to accumulate those picks from there. But we don't pick again till 103rd. We got 103 and 120. Maybe you use those to move up into the third round, and then all of a sudden you have 3 top 100 picks. So that philosophy can hold on. You just don't have as many picks throughout the rest of the draft. So maybe that's probably the route that they're going to go. It's just, like I said, we've had a full off season where they've been just beating this idea of so many ideas. Like I said, the accumulating top 100 picks, generational talent was the two big headlines. And like I said, I'm just saying with this particular offseason, especially with the shift to Cam Ward, all but guaranteed to be the number 1 pick in the draft, you're going to have to get something. And trading down from 35 to accumulate picks just doesn't seem like the move. I mean, you just don't know how that's going to go till it shakes out. But with all that being said, I'm just saying don't get bent out of shape. These guys have to say a lot of things, and the draft is very not random, but unpredictable in nature. There could be a run of quarterbacks in the first round, and all of a sudden 4 or 5 guys go, even though they've only been saying 2. These wide receivers can go in the top 15, and none of these guys are even available by then. Or top 20, more realistically. But, yeah, you can't hang your hat on how the picks are going to lie. And I think that with Brinker, Borgonzi, and Callahan, if he can survive another year, I'm having very big doubts on that even being plausible just because of how many holes we have to fill. But with the Borgonzi and Brinker philosophy, don't get bent out of shape just because this season doesn't seem like they're going to be able to stick to what they've been saying. This is the future, and this is what they're wanting to build going forward. And to do that, like I said, you have to have the big building blocks. And so, yeah, that's about it. Expect Cam Ward. Expect him to trade up, get a big-time wideout, big-time edge rusher, and use those 4th-round picks to try to move up. Like I said, we got draft capital. It's just late draft capital. But if you're going to get players that are going to make a difference now and in the future, you got to go up to get them. That's all for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and tighten up, y'all.